Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Always Aggressive podcast. I'm Hunter Massengill alongside head coach Tony Ursuline. We've got Tanner and Corey behind the scenes and new guests today. As anticipated, we've been teasing Elaine being on the show for a while.
We've been talking her up hard.
We've been talking her up, so
she's a big damn deal.
Hopefully you brought your A game today, because I think just about every episode we've worked you into the conversation somehow.
You told her we do the hot seat questions right away?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rapid fire.
You're going to be on the hot seat pretty quickly here. Okay, so 4 guys making it into the top 10 this week. So a good weekend. Brunner also jumping up to 17 after this past weekend. 127 of 30 matches this past weekend. Overall thoughts on the success on Sunday?
Yeah, I was really happy with the way the guys competed. The effort was really good. Their energy was good. You know, they were ready to go, and so I was really happy from that standpoint. The few matches we lost, made a few positional mistakes that really cost us. In particular, you know, Max Lyon had a match where I thought he was really starting to take control of the match and just put his head to his knee and got cradled, and it was the ultimate mistake because, you know, he was pinned. So, but that's fine. You know what I mean? That will happen from time to time, and so we'll correct those mistakes. But I like where we're at from how we're competing and how they're going about their business. So overall, a great day. We'll build on it just from correcting a few of these positional mistakes.
Elaine, your first chance. You know, you haven't had a chance to travel with us yet, so it was your first chance to get to see the guys in action. What'd you think?
I mean, I always enjoy wrestling, watching them. It's like 7 minutes of the most hard-working individuals out there giving it their all. So it's very fast-paced. So very fun to watch.
I gave Tony a hard time on Sunday, Hunter. I gave him a call after the duels just to wrap up, and said, you know, how you doing? And oh, I'm okay. And I'm like, Coach, we just won 27 of 30 matches. He goes, yeah. I go, you're thinking about the 3 we lost, aren't you? He goes, yeah. Never satisfied though.
They sting, right? Like, you know, yeah. And that's key. We talk about that a lot with our guys. I know we're probably rehashing old ground, but you should never be satisfied this time of year, right? It's about learning and growing, and it's more about how good can you be and what does that journey look like. And the losses always sting harder than the wins. You know, the wins are great, but man, you feel for the kids that lose a tough match because you see how hard they work every day, right? You get really invested in that, and so yeah, it's tough when guys don't get what you think they deserve.
I will say this: it's from where I'm sitting. It's good to see that you preach that message to the coach. You know, don't let wins lull you into like the idea of like this is where you need to be. You know, winning doesn't like cure all the ails. It doesn't. It feels good, but if you're not winning the way you should win, don't be satisfied. And so, I think it's great to see the coach reflect the same thing he's preaching to the guys when he's sitting at dinner with his family on a Sunday night.
Yes, we'll let that hang out there. Go ahead.
Well, a couple matches or a couple guys I want to touch on rather, and there's a couple that I'd really like to get Elaine's opinion on, especially. So we'll start at 133. Travis Ford Melton pulling the red shirt, getting him into matches this past weekend. His first couple matches, as a collegiate wrestler, he got a pin in his first match ever. First official match ever, I should say.
First varsity match.
Right. He's wrestled unattached so far this season. Won another match, 11-7. Won another one by forfeit. So coming out of his first weekend undefeated. My question to you, Elaine, is he's a true freshman. He's obviously competing well so far. Are there certain habits that you have to break guys of? Like when a true freshman gets here on campus, and especially one that is now in the lineup, Are you breaking habits that they had in high school because they've done this by themselves really for so long? Now that they have someone that's a professional in this area to help them, is it easier or harder with the newer guys?
I think it just kind of like depends upon what kind of coaching they had before. If it was emphasized like the importance of cutting weight correctly and like staying close to your weight class versus if their coach was just kind of letting them just do it on their own. Parents, how that was before. And then obviously we have a really great coaching staff here that supports them staying close to their weight and making weight correctly. So from like a culture standpoint, it's very helpful them coming into the Purdue wrestling culture that we've already created. I think they've got a lot of great leadership in those aspects that is hugely helpful.
And we talked about with Coach a couple times. I mean, the NCAA regulates some of the changes that they're allowed to make on a weekly basis. You know, you can't drop so much weight per week, and obviously that's what you focus on a lot. So not only of how these guys are cutting, but you know, when they show up Monday morning or they show up Sunday morning after a match, of how much that they weigh when they come in for the first part of the week, because you can only drop so much by the time you've got your next match coming up. It's been tough for you too, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, but this is where having a plan, right, is so instrumental, right? Having someone with Elaine's knowledge, and she's a really hard worker. You know what I mean? And that's great, because it takes a lot of work to keep up with 30 plus guys. And you compete. Most of them compete weekly, right? Because we have open tournaments. So there's a lot to manage there and a lot to stay up on. But if you have a good plan, and I feel like we do, that now it's just making sure the guys buy into the plan. You know, and that's different for everybody. Like she mentioned, you know, some kids come in with a little stronger grasp on what they're doing, but many don't. And so try to implement that and get them to buy in, and then having the leadership within your locker room to help instill that and show them the way is important. And I think she works really hard at trying to get these guys to understand and see the big picture.
Having guys like Max and Parker's got to help your job, Elaine.
Oh yeah, for sure. A bunch of hardworking individuals, do whatever you say. Yeah, really good for team culture. Well,
this will be a good segue, because I would imagine one of the positions that is sometimes can be difficult is the heavyweight position, because there's such a wide range. It's almost 100 pounds from, you know, the 197 all the way up to the maximum of 285. So it's such a wide range that those guys can work in. We saw Thomas Panola go this past weekend, competed well, had a big win. What's your thoughts on that position moving forward with Thomas Panola? And you know, David Eli is getting some matches and competing well at that position too. So what are some of your thoughts on that position?
You know, obviously with Brunner deciding to come off his red shirt, that was kind of the original plan, but he decided he wanted to go. You know, we had wrestle-offs last week to settle that weight. It shook out where it's Brunner's spot for the year, and so now Thomas let us know that he certainly wants to try to be in the lineup and sees heavyweight as an opportunity. So we will have a wrestle-off this week at some point for Dave Eli and Thomas Panola, and then we'll see how that goes. I'm sure Elaine's probably excited, because she has a couple of guys that she, instead of talking about dissension, right, and how you need to bring your weight down and still have the energy to compete well and at a high level, she really gets to play with, you know, pumping these guys full of calories and adding quality mass. That's
what I was going to ask. I was going to pass this off to Elaine, because
I say, Tony, you kind of stole Hunter's thunder.
I'm sorry. You know,
no, it's okay.
I'll let her elaborate. I know she's excited.
I would imagine with Thomas Panola, even David Eli, who are on the smaller side, guys that are competing for that heavyweight position, you and Ryan Shane, the strength and conditioning coach for the Boilermakers, have to be licking your chops, thinking, you know, we're going to be able to put some muscle and some mass on these guys with a 285 cap, and neither of those guys are that close to that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one thing to like just get the opportunity to do that kind of a transition in the middle of the season, but to have someone like Thomas that's just like a hard worker, will literally like sat in my office for an hour yesterday working on his meal plan, just found out he was going up on Sunday. Like, it's just nice to work with those types of individuals with the drive to actually apply what you talk about. So it's going to be fun to see what he.
And I would imagine a lot of the guys that come to your office, they're trying to figure out how they can manage their weight, how they can stay under their weight class. Those guys are probably pretty excited to come into your office, because you're going to have some stuff for them that they're actually going to like to hear, that they can eat a little bit more than what the rest of the team can eat when, you know, they go out to dinner on a weekend. Yeah.
Well, I think with like those heavier weights, though, a lot of them do manage their weight in such a way that they still do eat pretty frequently, consistently. I don't think Thomas was ever feeling like he wasn't getting in that. Like, I think it's always been a chore.
Right.
Because I think there's definitely a range in which your body likes to be in, and anytime you try and force it outside of that range, it becomes a chore. Whether it's going up a weight or going down a weight from that range, it's going to take some discipline.
So without getting too crazy and too into the details, or you go as far as you want, really. What did you tell a guy like Thomas? Where what is the emphasis for him as he's going to try and go from cutting to 197 to try and get I imagine he's going to try and get up to the 220s, 230s, whatever. I guess as high, as big, as strong as he can get. Like what advice you have for him? What's his plan?
Well, he was already consuming a lot of calories, so now it's how do we get him in a day where you're training twice and you don't want to be too full going into practice or lift. You want to feel good, but you also know at the end of the day you need close to 5,000 calories. So content of calories might look a little different.
5,000 calories. Mm-hmm. Tony, when was the last time you ate 5,000 calories?
Listen, man, I'm trying to keep it under 2,000, okay? I mean, I got to talk to Elaine about a whole nother
I will
plan.
give you credit.
So
Coach has been on a health kick. He's been taking me some healthier places for lunch. So
I'm trying. I want Elaine to know I'm trying, too. I try to remind her, so.
Now, when Elaine does say 5,000 calories, it's not the fun 5,000 calories. It's not your fast food and ice cream and cake. It's a little bit more strict on the 5,000.
I love ice cream.
Yeah, same. But that's not good for your 5,000 calories. We're talking proteins, veggies. I mean, just shoveling that kind of stuff in and racking up calories that way, right?
Right. So basically getting in those balance plates, maybe adjusting composition of maybe now we're not doing complex carbohydrates because it is filling, and that's going to fill your stomach up whenever really you need more calories. So switching the composition of some things, adding in some more fats, just to kind of get him enough calories, but not to the point where he's always consistently feeling uncomfortably full.
Mm-hmm. Well, back to the mat for just a moment. You touched on Brunner making the decision. He's back in the lineup, ready to go, like I mentioned at the top. Already, I think, number 17, according to Intermat. I don't know if he's been anywhere else.
He fluctuates. He's anywhere between 11 and 19. There's
Right.
there's about 5 polls out there, and he's a little all over the place right now. I think going in and out of the lineup kind of messed with some people. He's got Tony and I were going through some of his quality wins this morning. You try not to rely too much on 2019 when you go through these guys' wins and losses, but I mean he's got wins over a handful of guys in the top 10 of the country. He does have the one ding this year. He lost to Schuyler from Buffalo. But I think, Christian's got a ton of opportunity here coming up the road with Vegas and with Midlands.
And he got 2 big wins this past weekend. I mean, he got the pin over number 19 at 197.
Yeah, bullsack from Clarion.
Coming in late in that match. So what are some of your expectations out of Brunner, getting his first official matches of the season 4 weekends in?
Yeah, I mean, Tanner kind of mentioned he's going to have his opportunities in front of him. So, I mean, he's in the rankings, and that's good, just because you want to be, when those coaches polls start coming out that help determine NCAA qualifying spots, you want to be positioned. That's where you're thinking of it, right? You're thinking about the coaches' rankings, the win percentage, the RPI. So you want him in the rankings, but he will have his opportunities to move up, starting with Cliff Keen here in about a week and a half. So I would expect to see him, continue to move up because he's always done very well at those events. He's placed and he's placed high, and as Tanner mentioned, he has quality wins over people in the top 8. So for him, it's just going to be, hey, get on that, the mindset of, hey, week to week, I just got to be better because he's competing every week now. He only competed a couple of opens initially, and so now it's competing weekly. And what does the rhythm look like from a standpoint of making weight and training?
Following up on that, Coach, you look at some of the shakeups in the rankings, and they all came out this morning or late last night. We've pushed up as high as 14 in some of the team polls with the tournament scoring. A big part of that was Griffin Perry and his upset at 149 against Clarion's Brock Zackrell. Has to be nice to see us. I mean, obviously got to get it done in March, but the recognition, things are moving in the right direction. Guys are getting noticed. Teams getting noticed. What are your thoughts on some of those guys starting to get up into those top 10 rankings and get that recognition?
I think it's building momentum. It's showing the guys that what they're doing is working, right? You want just trust in the process and to see growth, right? That's what you want, because it's going to just keep fueling, the engine to work harder, to improve, to get better. How good can you be? So it should all just fuel the fire for these guys about, they're making weight if they're performing well. Their plan for making weight is working. They're seeing they have great energy when they need to compete and they're ready to go. Their warm up is right where it needs to be. Their mindset when they put their foot on the line. It's just an indicator of, yes, we're where we need to be this time of year, because we're seeing some good results from these kids. And that's all I really want. We want to see where we're at, and then we want to be able to improve and progress.
And you're finally getting, like Tanner said, getting the recognition in those coaches polls and even in the individual weight class rankings. But you have to be kind of getting pretty excited that some of the question marks in the lineup that we've had the past couple weeks are starting to even themselves out. Travis Ford Melton going at 33, the 97 and 285 spots starting to settle in there. I mean, this lineup from top to bottom it's solid from top to bottom, and then it's going to cause a lot of problems for a lot of teams, especially once we get into Big Ten season here in about a month or two.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel good about where we're at right now. The early success from Travis, he looked good. He looked confident. Yeah. He competed well, in front of the home crowd. So he got off to a nice start. So really happy for him, and I think he's excited. And that's what you want. He took and made the most of his situation this weekend. So he got off to a great start. He's created momentum. Heavyweight, we'll figure that out, and we'll make some adjustments as we go. But I think like you said, I think this team will have a lot to say, with the best teams that we're going to see, coming up.
Yeah. Well, we've got an interesting next couple 11 days coming up, right? Thanksgiving is on Thursday. Filming on Tuesday, a little bit earlier show this week. But Thanksgiving is on Thursday. And Elaine, this is where you're going to come in big time. An off weekend this weekend, and by off weekend I mean just no matches this weekend. I'm sure you're still practicing and such. And then Cliff Keen next weekend in Las Vegas, which is always a gauntlet of a tournament. So a dangerous 10 days coming up with some off days leading into a pretty big tournament. Elaine, number one eating holiday in the country with Thanksgiving coming up on Thursday. What is it that you're telling the team? What are some of the tips and advice that you're giving the team when they go off to their families and they're having their Thanksgivings? And also, what are you expecting to actually happen on Thursday when they come back on Friday and they've got some
advice versus reality?
Right.
I was going to say, that's wow. I mean, I didn't see it taking that turn.
Question.
Well, look. Advice versus reality is a good way to put it, because you give them the best. And now, granted, this team is very disciplined. Wrestlers usually are very disciplined, especially in season.
Thursday.
Me too.
But what is some of the advice that you're giving these guys going into Thursday, where there's going to be tables full of junk food at their homes?
Well, I mean, I just tell them to approach it like any other day. Not much is changing. You're going to wake up. You're going to have 3 meals like you always do. Mm-hmm. Don't skip breakfast just to save up for the big meal. That's first rule. That's a great way to set yourself up for failure.
It's the most important meal of the day, right?
That's a good tip for everyone.
Yeah, go ahead and eat breakfast. It is a very important meal of the day. Get some activity in. Like most of our guys, even on their off day, they are doing something, whether it's going for a jog or stretching or whatever else. I'd say almost every single guy is doing something every single day of the week. So be active. Go play football with your family. Go do something. Go for a walk. And then whenever you go to build your plate, you know what you like, so put those things on your plate. Make sure you have some sort of carbohydrate. Make sure you have some sort of protein. Make sure you have some sort of vegetable on your plate. And then if you want to try things that you've never tried, like put a sample of it on your plate. You don't need a whole serving of something if you're not sure if you're going to like it. And then once you're done with your plate, maybe instead of hanging out around all the food, go to a different room. Go talk to your siblings that you haven't seen and probably won't see them once wrestling season gets rolling for a while. Go talk to those family members that you haven't seen in a while.
So you're saying grazing is bad, is what you're saying?
Grazing is dangerous. I won't say it's bad. Grazing can be dangerous.
Don't think of it as right or wrong. Okay, I like that.
See, now I have some questions about a couple gray areas here. Pumpkin pie, pecan pie, carrot cake, those things all have healthy things in the name. So where do those fit on the plate of carbohydrates and proteins, and which category would those...
I can't wait to hear this answer either.
Pumpkin's either a fruit or a
Where does
vegetable,
pumpkin
but it
pie
definitely
fit
grows in the
on
garden.
the spectrum of
That's what I'm
carbs or protein?
That's what I'm saying. This is just a
It's
gray area.
delicious. That's where it fits.
I would put that more in carbs just because there's so much sugar in it.
Glad to hear.
It's like probably fruit flavored, but at that point you're not getting quite what I would say is the breakdown composition of like true fruits.
I've never heard a pumpkin described as a carb. That's
Well,
a first for
sure
me.
is a carb. So
And I mean, yeah, I know it's not the first thing that comes to my mind. I guess. So.
I'm guessing if you eat a slice of pumpkin, you'd be good, but a slice of pumpkin pie.
oh yeah, there's the difference. Yeah, no one's eating a slice of just pumpkin.
Okay.
You good? Tony? Are you there, Tony? You back with us?
I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
you know, it did it. He took me into a dangerous turn. Right?
I'm trying to
looking at food in a whole new way here.
That's what I'm trying to help you out. Maybe give you... Elaine says pumpkin pie belongs in the carbohydrates portion of your plate, so you can have an extra slice of it when you're trying to get your carbs up.
That's how some of my guys would rationalize that. That's what I'm worried about where this
You're
is
putting some
going.
dangerous content on the airwaves here.
Well, we started off by saying Elaine's going to be on the hot seat as soon as we get started here. So.
Well, and honestly, I think that is the biggest thing that a lot of wrestlers struggle with is I'm not the dietitian that'll say, hey, never have that. I'm the one that'll say, have that in moderation, enjoy it, and move on.
I dig
Yeah.
that
Don't
she
sit
doesn't
there
work
and
in
say,
absolutes.
I can't have it, and then you think about it, and you think about it, and you think about it. I can't have it, I can't have it. You're reinforcing, and then you will have it, and you'll have a lot of it.
You'll have a lot of it, and then you'll feel really bad about yourself.
Yeah,
for doing
so just
Been there.
just stop the cycle,
Guilt
have
is-
it, be mindful, and move on.
Guilt is crippling.
So, like I mentioned, we have an off weekend this coming weekend, so these guys don't officially have to make weight for this weekend. So coming off of the holiday, what are some of the things that you're focusing on these guys? Maybe they did have an extra piece of pumpkin pie on Thursday, or a little more than they should have. Maybe some things in their diet that they're working on, or that they would need to do on Friday and Saturday to get right for Sunday and to start a normal week come Sunday and Monday morning.
So I think just getting back in the routine and the swing of things. Big picture, it's one meal on one day. To gain a pound truly, you would have to be in a surplus of 3,000 calories, which you're not going to be in a surplus of 3,000 calories on that one day. So I'm not too totally concerned with the one meal. It's that if we go home and then we're sent with all these leftover pies and those linger for a week, yeah, we might be struggling. But I think just getting back in the routine, enjoying the moment, resting up because it is going to be a long season, and then getting back here, getting back to training. We've got catered meals for them, breakfast right after they're done with their first training of the day. We'll do a dinner with them right after they're done with their second training of the day. So everything's pretty much laid out for success. They just need to come and be prepared.
I would add on to that too. I mean, she mentioned and I would say this has been a big deal for us the last 2 years is the catering. She has had a greater involvement with meals over holidays or anytime we're on a break, say spring break or whatever. So these guys have every opportunity, not only to learn, from a resource standpoint, but then to see what this looks like so they can put it into uses, as they continue on their own. So that's been, in my opinion, very tremendously helpful that these guys are having meals at least 2 times a week. It'll be more this week because of the Thanksgiving break and we're still here training. So, but I just think that's huge. That's instrumental for the guys to see what it looks like in practice.
Well, I really like the simplification of it. It's like Elaine said, it's one meal on one day. And, obviously the holiday has a lot bigger connotations and it's widely celebrated and, it's a cultural phenomenon. But at the same time, these guys are, the season is just started.
Yeah.
It's one day that they gotta make weight on.
Well, it takes the pressure off. I mean, I'll use this story. and Elaine's probably seen this as well, but I've had athletes over the years where, when you gave them a break, their weight skyrocketed up because they denied themselves so much. They obsessed over it, as she mentioned, and you just think about it, and then as soon as you get a chance to have that, boy, your weight it blows up.
Yeah.
And then within their same career, I've had them go up a weight class, and all of a sudden they're living lighter than they were when they were at the weight class below, simply because they obsessed over it, and when they had a chance to eat, they just crushed it. So it just shows that the kind of emotional or mental aspect of this is key. And when you approach it from that standpoint, where it's one meal, we're not going to stress over this, we're just going to follow the plan, I think it alleviates a lot of that anxiety that kids may have over it.
So, holiday on Thursday. Again, no official matches this weekend. What's your guys' schedule look like in terms of practice and even weigh-ins, just to stay on top of it? Elaine's keeping it under control. Hopefully the guys are all doing their part as well. But what's your guys' schedule going through this weekend to kind of stay on track here?
Yeah, it's nice. So today's the last day of school here at Purdue. We'll have practice tomorrow, and then I'm going to give my kids the afternoon to travel if they want to, to nearby. We have Chicago kids, Ohio kids. If they want to head home for a day to have Thanksgiving with their loved ones, they are certainly welcome to do that. Thursday is an off day, but Elaine has catered meals tomorrow for our kids before we leave. She's arranged for the catering at my house for Thanksgiving, and then we come back, and Friday and Saturday we're hard back at work again, kind of getting back in the rhythm of training, knowing it's a short week with us departing on Wednesday for Las Vegas the following week. So, we give them the day to enjoy family and friends and enjoy that, but we'll be here training otherwise, and even though campus will be empty, she'll have the meals ready to go, and obviously be talking to them about what it needs to look like as we head into a short week with a big tournament.
It was interesting. Corey and I actually saw Dylan Lighty in the hallways on Saturday before the match on Sunday, and it was interesting talking to him because he mentioned that the past 3 weeks you guys have been on the road, that he kind of got into the routine of, okay, this is what I'm doing Friday night. We're traveling Friday, Saturday morning, I'm relaxing in a hotel room, just kind of getting mentally prepared. Versus when you're home, I mean, anything can happen. Your family comes up on Saturday morning, or you've got friends that want to go out to breakfast or want to go out to lunch or whatever the case may be, of how different it is just being at home versus being on the road. And then also being at home and not having matches to prepare for, to be able to stay in a routine and also be out of a schedule, but still try to keep the same routine, is probably difficult, especially for a lot of the younger guys.
I think you just have to be aware of it, right? I think, when you're cued into reminding yourself to always bring it back to where you need to be, that's the important thing, because in my opinion, nothing changes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we're going to have a holiday there, and everybody's going to enjoy family and friends. I'm going to enjoy it. Everybody's going to enjoy that. But nothing changes. This week, from a standpoint of how we're approaching our work and trying to get better, that does not change. So while you want to be aware of, hey, it's a little bit different schedule, you always bring your kids back to, stay in the rhythm of, how you want to be thinking about your week, how you're approaching your diet, how you're approaching your training. That all has to be, brought back to them and reinforced. And we have a lot of good kids that will do that. They'll recognize it. But the young kids, maybe you think of, Kendall Coleman and Emil Sunland and even Travis, these young kids who are competing, it's the first time. You want to make sure that you don't take it for granted that stay where you need to be, from how you're approaching your diet and your workouts, doing what your body is accustomed to doing, keeping your mind in the right, disciplined in your thoughts, I guess. I'm kind of working around it, but how I think of it is you got to be disciplined in your thoughts.
And I'm sure it's the same for you, Elaine, working with these guys. I mean, I know it's no secret that wrestlers are very strict on themselves. Their weight is so important, and these guys play around in the 0.1 pounds vicinity versus other teams don't have to worry about their weight as much as wrestlers do. Coaching these teams through 2 different holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas. I think we've had you on for the Christmas, before Christmas as well. Just kind of the same idea of making sure these guys are staying disciplined. Is it easier with wrestlers or more difficult with wrestlers, since it's more important with wrestlers with their weight?
That's tough.
because you do work with other teams here, and I'm not, not to say that any of the other teams don't take full use of you as part of their staff, but like I said, wrestlers, I mean, their weight is more important than any other sport out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that aspect. Obviously, they have outside pressures keeping them accountable. Like, they have to get on a scale, they have to make a weight in order to compete. Right now, I mean, anyone that's here competing on this team, you're elite, everyone's out to win. So it's kind of like that competitive edge is like how you manage your weight. If you're cutting it wrong because you screwed up and you let your weight get out of control, like, you're going to be hurting in that tournament or in that next match. Whereas it's just the impact of it is just so much more on performance that I think they have to be disciplined.
And I think, a little bit different with other sports where, say you have a bad weekend and you go out to dinner with your family and you eat 2,000-3,000 calories in a meal, you have cake, you have your ice cream, you have candy, whatever. You come in Monday morning, you may feel a little bit sluggish and, you're not competing at 100% like you should be. In wrestling, if you go out and you have that meal, it's not you're just sluggish come the weekend or come Monday. You don't compete because if your weight's not where it should be. And I'm sure that's something that weighs on a lot of these guys' minds and the coaches' minds as well, that it's not a matter of just not being able to be at 100%. It's you cannot compete if you are not under this line that's drawn in the sand.
The one thing I would say too, because I think anybody who's had to be really disciplined with their diet and is in tune with their body. I mean, you mentioned it a little bit, but you don't feel good. After you've been on this and you're eating clean. Let's call it that, right? I hate to say it's a diet, right? It's just even you should always eat clean as an athlete. As soon as you kind of I don't want to say abuse your body, but you have some of that greasy stuff or the sweets, or you just don't feel good. And I know a number of the kids will just tell you, like, yeah, man, I went home and I had a little bit of this or that, and they come back and I just don't feel good. And you don't like that. As an athlete, you want to be able to perform. You want to be able to get better. That's important, right? It's just kind of in your DNA about progressing and getting to be as good as you possibly can. So I think once you've bought into the plan, it feeds itself because you don't feel good and you don't want to have that kind of impact your performance. And so I think it gets to eventually where it feeds itself. Sometimes it's just tough to maybe instill that right away with kids when they've been doing something else for coming out of high school maybe for years and years.
Well, happy Thanksgiving to everyone in the room.
Yeah, just, this is very cliche and I hate to do it to everybody, but, it is Thanksgiving. The other side of we've talked a lot about the eating, Coach, Elaine, just some things that you're thankful for and things you want to appreciate going into the.
Do you want to start, Tanner?
I'd be happy to start. Obviously, thankful for family, thankful for my Purdue family, very much. Thankful to Tony for bringing me back to wrestling. I've been back at this for, I can't believe it's already end of November. We kicked this off in July, but it's been a wild ride so far, and I'm having a great time. And I enjoy the podcast, and I enjoy the day-to-day work, and so that's it for me.
I'm thankful for wrestling season being fully in swing. I love wrestling season. I'm glad that we're getting to the close of November. It's been a very hectic November. However, same thing as Tanner said, thankful for family, thankful for the Purdue family, but, wrestling season being in full swing. We've got wrestling, outside of this weekend, we've got wrestling every weekend for the next couple months.
Yep.
It's exciting.
For me, I always am about the people. I love my relationships, with the people who surround this program, such as you guys, the kids on the team, the parents, and the alumni, and obviously thankful for my wife and kids who allow me to chase my passion. This is my passion, and I love it. It's not work to me, but I really appreciate all of the relationships that I have, and I'm just very excited. As you said, it's wrestling season. It's the best time of the year, and I'm excited to see what these kids can do. Very, very thankful for those opportunities.
Elaine?
Yeah, of course, the friends and family, but even just like Purdue and the family that it brings. I think everyone that's employed here, it's a totally different culture than I've ever been a part of, and I'm just really appreciative of that.
Well, definitely happy Thanksgiving to everyone in the room, all the viewers out there as well. I'm not sure where we landed on whether or not you can have an extra piece of pumpkin pie. I think it's still in the gray area.
Eat your carbs.
But I think that it
Carbs are good.
is
Carbs are
carbs.
good.
I-
Carbs are good.
Thank you for the clarification. I think that is where we landed, that it belongs in the carb
It's a
portion
carb.
of the plate.
It's a carb.
So maybe if you're doing high carb diet, you can have an extra piece of pumpkin pie. So congratulations to all you out there that are on those kind of diets. All right. So for head coach Tony Ursland, Elaine, Wall Street, Corey, and Tanner, behind the scenes, I'm Hunter Massengill. As always, boiler up and happy Thanksgiving to everyone.